Hi guys, so I'm here today to bring you a book haul. I have a stack of, I think, around 16 or so books. So in order to stop this video from being half an hour long, I'm going to jump straight in. The first 4 books are books that I bought myself. So I'd actually bought 2 of these when I did my last book haul, but forgot to show them, so I'll start with those 2. And the first one is The Witches of Eilenen by Kate Forsyth. I bought this second hand, and I bought it because, well, I'd been wanting to read it for a while. It'd been on my TBR for a while, but I specifically made the effort to pick up because this is the Lady Vault's book club read for the month of March, which is a Goodreads book club that Elizabeth from Books and Pieces runs, where they read science fiction and fantasy, that came out a while ago, written by women. And when this one was their read, I was like, okay, I really just need to get around to it because I've never read any Kate Forsyth, and this one particularly sounds up my street because it's like high epic fantasy. There's a dragon on the front, although it looks like it might be an evil dragon, but you know, it's okay. Other than that, I don't know a terrible amount about it, but Kate Forsyth is always being praised as an excellent female fantasy author. Generally speaking though, it seems like it's set in a magical land, divided, those that practice the old ways are persecuted, and we have a girl that is raised sort of like outside of society and being trained in the old ways, I believe, in order, I guess, to save her people, perhaps? Maybe go against this dragon? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. And then I also picked up Spellbook of the Lost and Found by Moira Fowley Doyle. I've seen Huck over at Badger Reads talk about this one a lot, and she just made it sound really, really interesting. I also recently saw Sana at Books and Quills mention it, so I've heard a lot of good things about this one. I believe it's a young adult fantasy novel set in our world, but 2 friends cast a spell in which they want to recall to them the things that they have lost, and I imagine that spell sort of goes out of control somewhat and runs wild further than they were expecting it to, and it's about the effects of the spell that they've cast, and like I said, good reviews I have heard. And then I bought 2 books specifically because they are sequels, both in duologies, which is quite nice. I'll have wrapped up the series with both of these books, and I read both the first books during the Femme Fantail readathon and loved them both, so wanted the sequels. So those 2 books I picked up second hand. I also picked up this book second hand because I couldn't even find it new, actually. I bought the first one new, but couldn't seem to find the second one new, and that is Turning the Storm by Naomi Kritzer. This is the sequel to a book that is just behind me, which is Fires of the Faithful, which was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed that book. It is a high fantasy series or duology, which initially is set in a music conservatory, and again is set in a world that's very much divided down 2 lines. There are those that practice the old religion and are persecuted, and those that practice the more mainstream new religion, and about the government and how it's oppressing the people, and all the secrets it's keeping, and those secrets start to become discovered by our protagonist, who is a girl attending this music conservatory. But at the same time, she is also gay, so it is a queer fantasy novel with gay woman protagonist, which is something I'm always on the hunt for, and I really enjoyed it because it was very much an adventure story where the character happened to be gay. As much as I love a romance book, that's not what this was, so I think it offered something that you actually find even less when you're looking for queer characters or non-heterosexual characters in fantasy fiction. And this is the second book, and oh my goodness, was the first book tense and dramatic, and I need to know what happens next in the adventure and in this world and with our main character. I then have The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh, which is the sequel to The Wrath and the Dawn, which is a young adult fantasy novel inspired by 1001 Arabian Nights with elements of Beauty and the Beast and the Bluebeard fairy tales mixed in there. And actually, I mean, I'm not familiar as much with all of the stories from 1001 Arabian Nights, so this might be drawing on more of those, but there are little elements of Aladdin in there as well. There's particularly one sort of character slash item from Aladdin that comes into the first book that I think is going to play a larger role in the second book. But I really, really enjoyed the first book in this duology, and I ordered the sequel whilst I was still finishing the first one because I knew I needed to find out what happened next ASAP. Essentially, we follow our protagonist who has volunteered to be the bride of this prince who marries a new bride every night and has them executed every morning. And one of her friends was one of his previous brides, so she wants to enact some sort of revenge, but when she enters his palace, becomes his bride, her feelings start to be kind of like challenged, and there's secrets that she needs to uncover, and I loved it. I then have two books that were given to me as gifts, both by my friend Jen, who is over at Jen V Campbell, and the first one was my birthday gift, and that is Feminist Cross Stitch by Stephanie Rohr. So I've never done cross stitch before, but I recently really gotten into knitting, and I'm just like finding I'm enjoying these kind of like sit down crafty things more that I can listen to audiobooks whilst I'm doing. And Jen bought me an entire kit for cross stitching, so I have like the fabrics, the wooden borders or whatever you call these, and loads of thread and like tools to do cross stitch, and then she bought me this brilliant book that's full of fabulous patterns. I think this is incredible and I cannot wait to make my first one. Like, for example, here's one that says Angry, Liberal, Feminist Killjoy with a lovely floral border. Owning it. Definitely going to make this one. Although I might try and change it to Angry, Socialist, Feminist Killjoy. But there's so many brilliant ones. I mean, you've got ones that just say things like Reclaiming My Time, Strong Women, May We Be Them, Know Them, Raise Them, Believe Women, and other cross stitch patterns in that vein. So I'm super excited to do my first ever cross stitch. I think this is the perfect cross stitch pattern book to start with for me. So I think that was just such a thoughtful, brilliant gift from Jen. My birthday is actually on the 23rd of March, so I think this video will go up shortly before that, but I saw Jen a couple of days ago and she gifted these to me, so really excited about that. And then she also picked me up a second-hand copy of this book that she thought sounded right up my alley, and that is The Autumn Castle by Kim Wilkins. This is a fae, high fantasy, mass market paperback. I am all over this, absolutely, it sounds brilliant. It's about a woman living in an artist colony in Berlin, and she's in a serious car crash which leaves her seriously injured, but then this fae woman comes from the world of the fae to seek her help, and I don't know if they had a past relationship, like did they know each other in the past. It implies they might have been childhood friends, but this woman is now the queen of the fae and she needs her old friend's help. So yes, cannot wait to read this. I was then sent the rest of the books in this haul by the publishers for review. So the first book I have is Territory of Light by Yuko Tsushima. This is a Japanese translated novel. It is translated by Geraldine Harcourt, and I have been reading more Japanese literature, as I've mentioned, in the past sort of like year or so, and really enjoying it. And Penguin asked me if I would like a copy of this, which they've just reprinted, although is this maybe the first time it's been published in English or something like that, but it's sort of like been out of print for a while and they've brought it back, or they've brought it out in English for the first time. And I am really keen. Apparently it's like a really famous Japanese novel. It's very, very short. It says, it is spring. A young woman left by her husband starts a new life in a Tokyo apartment. Territory of Light follows her over the course of a year as she struggles to bring up her 2-year-old daughter alone. Her new home is filled with light streaming through the windows, so bright you have to squint, but she finds herself plummeting deeper into darkness, becoming unstable and untethered. So that one sounds really, really interesting, and I love this cover, so I'm really keen to read that one. I was also sent a book that I'm sure you have seen on many, many people's channels at this point, because it has been longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction, and I have heard a lot of great things about it on other booktubers' channels, and that is Ghostwall by Sarah Moss. I've never read any Sarah Moss. I feel like that's blasphemy. And not just because she's very popular amongst reviewers I trust, but because I think I will like her. I just haven't gotten around to her yet, and hopefully I can jump in with this short book here. It says teenage Sylvie and her parents are living in a hut in Northumberland as an exercise in experimental archaeology, already there for the premise. Her father is a difficult man obsessed with imagining and enacting the harshness of Iron Age life. Haunting Sylvie's narrative is the story of a bog girl, a young woman sacrificed by those closest to her, and the landscape both keeps and reveals the secrets of past violence and ritual as the summer builds to its harrowing climax. I love the idea that it interacts with the like archaeology of like bog people that have been found, because I do find that very fascinating, and I studied that at the very beginning of like my time at university, so I like that it's going to draw on that sort of historical evidence. Then a book that came out quite a while ago but is a modern classic, and I have been sent a new edition of it, and that is Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, which I have never read. And it's not that I haven't read Kurt Vonnegut. I have read Kurt Vonnegut and loved Kurt Vonnegut. Yet this, which I'm pretty sure is his most popular book, I have never read, which equally shocks me because it's also an anti-war novel, and that's generally a political stance that I am down with. I would consider myself a pacifist. I have gone on a lot of anti-war protests in my lifetime, and like I said, I enjoy Kurt Vonnegut, so why haven't I read his anti-war novel? But this is specifically inspired by the firebombing of Dresden in Germany that Kurt Vonnegut witnessed around the time of World War II. And he is exploring those themes and finding a way to explore that experience through his fiction, which is often like a little bit, I don't know if surreal is the right word, but like out there, at least from what I've read in the past. It's quite quirky, sometimes with like black humour in there, so I'm really intrigued to finally get around to this, and this is a gorgeous edition. I then have a book that was sent to me unsolicited, but I'm definitely going to read because it definitely sounds up my alley, and that is The Flower Girls by Alice Clark Platt, and this is a thriller. The short summary on the inner flap says, "The Flower Girls, Laurel and Primrose, one convicted of murder, another given a new identity. Now, 19 years later, another child has gone missing, and the Flower Girls are about to hit the headlines all over again." So I think perhaps this is one of those ones where they think they caught the murderer, but now either a copycat or the same person has come back and is enacting new murders. So it's not all what it seems. And I've had quite positive experience with thrillers that are looking back at crimes that were committed in the past that have come to resurface in the future. For example, I really enjoyed Black Eyed Susans by Julia Heberlin, which is a thriller novel. It's not exactly the same, but it has that time jump and like a resurfacing serial killer, so I'm hoping that I will also enjoy this one. Then the last 6 books I was sent all come in a set, so I will show you them together, and it is these gorgeous books. I was sent these by Penguin and was so thrilled to receive them because they are beautiful. And these are like a new set of classics by women, most of which are children's books, but Pride and Prejudice is also included in this, although I suppose you could read Pride and Prejudice at any age really. But we have Heidi by Johanna Spira, which is actually the only book of these 6 I've read in the past, and loved this as a child. It was a children's book that I adored, Heidi, which is about a young girl living in the mountains with her grandpa. Would highly recommend. In fact, we then have The Railway Children by E. Nesbit, which I don't think I've read. I think I've only seen the film, although it could be one of those books that I did read as a child and it's just blended together. But I've definitely seen the film, so I know the storyline. And E. Nesbit is an incredibly interesting woman. If you read, go and read some stuff about her, she was really fascinating and politically active during her day. So I would like to actually give this one a shot finally, I think, and properly read it, at least now as an adult. But this is about a group of children who move to the countryside with their mother when their father goes away, and they go and watch the trains every morning in the hopes that their father will be on it. We have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Again, these covers are gorgeous. You know what this is about though. It's Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth, Mr. Darcy, etc, etc. Not one of the Austens I have read, so it is good to finally have a copy because I don't think I do. So I will have to get around to that at some point, but I do love Jane Austen. And then Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, which is about a group of sisters, and I've never read this, even though this is like an absolute classic. I know so many people that love this. Yeah, and I believe it's just about these 4 sisters growing up in their relationships. I think this one is probably my favourite cover though, and that is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Again, I have not read this, and I'm less familiar with what this one is about. It says, alone in a new country, wealthy Sarah Crewe tries to make friends at a boarding school and settle in, but she learns that she'll never see her beloved father again. Her life is turned upside down. Transformed from princess to pauper, will Sarah find that kindness and generosity are all the riches she truly needs? We will find out. And then lastly, a very popular book that is particularly regained a lot of popularity recently because of a TV adaptation, and that is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, which is a classic Canadian children's book, I believe. And it's about a strong-spirited young girl called Anne who lives at Green Gables. So it will be nice to actually visit some of these classic books written by women that I never got around to, and maybe revisit some of the ones that I did. But yeah, altogether, just Look at these, they're so beautiful. Cannot wait to pop these on my bookshelf. But those are all the books I had to show you in this book haul. I hope you have enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any thoughts on the books I've mentioned in this video, whether you've read them or want to read them. I'd love to hear from you, but until next time, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys.